He lived in a village lost between mountains, where ancient trees stood watch and a river sang without end. He knew simple contentment, morning light on water, work that satisfied his hands, his mother's warm cooking. Then something inside him began to fade. The illness came gradually, like autumn becoming winter. Nothing helped. Not the village remedies, not prayers, not hope itself. Until the elders spoke a name. Master Yu, the hermit of legend, the one who knew the old ways of healing. Before we follow Kai on his journey, find somewhere comfortable, a soft blanket, a quiet corner, dim lights if you can. If it feels right, share in the comments where you're listening from, your city, the time of day, what brought you here tonight. Someone in Tokyo is listening at dawn, someone in London during lunch, someone in Sao Paulo before sleep. We're breathing together across this turning world. You have nowhere else to be for the next few hours. And so, with the first light of dawn, Kai left everything he knew behind. Kai walked for days through forests that grew older with each mile. His body weakened. Each step became effort, each breath a small victory. At night beneath unfamiliar stars, doubt crept in. What if this Master Yu didn't exist? What if the elders had given him false hope? But the forest itself seemed to guide him. Ancient trees stood like silent watchers. Light filtered green and gold through leaves that had seen centuries pass. One fevered night, sheltering from rain in a shallow cave, Kai dreamed of a dragon circling above him, speaking in distant thunder, "Follow the hidden path." When he woke, he found symbols carved into stones, ancient markers, leading him higher into mountains, where air grew thin and his legs trembled with exhaustion. More than once he thought his body might give out on that nameless slope. Then, cresting a final ridge, he saw it. A small cabin among ancient pines, smoke rising from its chimney. Before he could knock, the door opened. An old man stood there, eyes deep as mountain lakes, white beard flowing, presence timeless and steady. "You've traveled far, young Kai," he said, voice warm as fire. "I am you. Come." Inside, Master Yu prepared tea. They sat in warm silence. "Healing is not something I give you," the old master said softly. "It's something you remember." That night, Kai slept deeply. At dawn, Master Yu waited in the garden. He gestured to a place among the plants and flowers. "We begin with breath." Master Yu rose with the sun and led Kai through a wooden door at the back of the cabin. Beyond it lay a garden, unlike any Kai had seen, not orderly rows of vegetables, but a living tapestry of flowers, herbs, and fruit trees, growing in wild harmony. Morning dew clung to petals. Birds sang from hidden branches. The air smelled of jasmine and fresh earth. "Sit," Master Yu said, gesturing to a smooth stone beneath a flowering plum tree. He settled onto another stone across from Kai, his movements unhurried, deliberate, as if he had all the time in the world. "The first key," the old master began, "is the simplest." He paused, eyes twinkling. "And the hardest." Kai waited, uncertain what to expect. "Tell me, Kai, how many breaths have you taken today?" The question caught Kai off guard. He opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. How many breaths? He had no idea. Dozens? Hundreds? He'd never counted, never noticed, never thought to pay attention. "I don't know," he admitted quietly. Master Yu nodded as if this was exactly the answer he'd expected. "You've been breathing since the moment you were born. Thousands upon thousands of breaths every single day, but you've never truly felt one." He leaned forward slightly. "Most people live their entire lives this way, Kai. Breathing without awareness. Alive, but not present for their own aliveness." A breeze moved through the garden, rustling leaves, carrying the scent of herbs Kai couldn't name. "Today," Master Yu said, "you will learn to breathe." Master Yu settled more deeply into his seated position, his spine straight but relaxed, hands resting gently on his knees. "Breath is the bridge between body and spirit," he said. "It's the one thing that connects your inner world to the outer world, the conscious to the unconscious, the you that thinks to the you that simply is." Kai tried to understand, but the words felt abstract, distant. "Don't try to grasp it with your mind," Master Yu said, as if reading Kai's thoughts. "Feel it with your body." He placed one hand on his own chest. "Close your eyes." Kai closed his eyes. Immediately, his other senses sharpened. The warmth of morning sun on his face, the stone cool beneath him, the symphony of bird calls surrounding them. "Breathe in through your nose." Master Yu's voice came soft and steady. Slowly, feel the air entering your nostrils, cool and fresh. Feel it traveling down into your chest, filling your lungs. Notice your chest rising, your belly expanding. Kai inhaled. For the first time in his life, he actually paid attention to what breathing felt like. The subtle coolness at his nostrils, the expansion in his chest, the slight stretch in his ribs. "Now release," Master Yu continued. "Slowly, feel the air leaving your body, warm now, carrying with it what you no longer need. Feel your chest falling, your belly softening." Kai exhaled. The breath left him in a slow stream, and something inside seemed to release with it, a tension he hadn't known he was holding. "Again," Master Yu said, "and again. There's nothing to achieve here, Kai. Nothing to accomplish. Simply breathe. and notice that you're breathing. Kai continued, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. At first it felt strange, this deliberate attention to something so automatic. His mind began to wander almost immediately. He thought about his village, his family, his illness. He wondered what he should cook for dinner, whether his mother was worried, how long he'd need to stay here. Then he caught himself. He'd lost track of his breathing entirely. Frustration rose in his chest. He couldn't even focus on breathing for more than a few moments. This simple thing, and already he was failing. Your mind wandered, Master Yu said gently, without opening his own eyes. This is natural. The mind is like a puppy, playful, curious, constantly distracted. It wanders because that's what minds do. He paused. The practice isn't to stop your mind from wandering. The practice is to notice when it wanders, and to gently, without judgment, without frustration, bring your attention back to your breath. Each time you return, the old master continued, that is the practice, not staying perfectly focused, returning again and again, 1,000 times if necessary. Each return is a victory, not a failure. Something in Kai softened at these words. He took another breath, deliberately, consciously. In, out. His mind wandered to his aching legs. He noticed. He returned to his breath. In, out. His mind jumped to worry about his health. He noticed. He returned. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Kai couldn't tell. Gradually, something began to shift. The spaces between thoughts grew longer. His breathing deepened without effort. His body, which had been tense and uncomfortable, began to soften. He felt his shoulders drop away from his ears, felt his jaw unclench, felt muscles he didn't know were tight begin to release, like ice melting under warm sun. And then, unexpectedly, tears came. Not sad tears, but something else. A release, a relief, so profound, it had no words. For months he'd been fighting his illness, fighting his fear, fighting the tension in his body and the worry in his mind. Now, just breathing, just allowing himself to be exactly as he was in this moment, something ancient and knotted inside him began to loosen. The tears flowed silently down his cheeks. He didn't wipe them away. He just kept breathing. In, out, simple, present, alive. Master Yu said nothing, but Kai felt his presence, steady, compassionate, holding space for whatever Kai was experiencing without needing to fix it or explain it or make it stop. Time became strange, elastic. Kai lost track of how long they'd been sitting. The sun moved across the sky. Shadows shifted. Birds came and went. And through it all, breath, simple, constant, the most ordinary miracle. The morning had turned to afternoon, though Kai only knew this from the angle of light filtering through the plum tree's branches. He'd been breathing, simply breathing, for hours, and those hours had passed like moments. Master Yu sat beside him in complete stillness, not instructing anymore, just being present. His presence wasn't intrusive or demanding. It was like the presence of the stone Kai sat upon, or the tree above them. Simply there, steady, asking nothing. Kai's awareness began to expand beyond his own breath. He noticed the rhythm of wind moving through leaves. Wasn't that also breathing? The garden inhaling and exhaling? He noticed flowers opening toward the sun, their petals unfurling like lungs expanding. He noticed the earth beneath him, porous and alive, breathing through countless invisible spaces between soil particles. Everything was breathing. The realization didn't come as a thought, but as a direct experience, felt in his body before his mind could name it. He was breathing, yes, but he was also being breathed by the same force that moved through leaves and flowers and earth, through birds and clouds, and the vast turning world. The boundary between himself and the garden began to blur. Not in a frightening way, but in a way that felt like coming home, like remembering something he'd always known, but had forgotten. He wasn't separate from this. He'd never been separate from this. His illness, that darkness that had been stalking him for months, that heaviness in his chest and fog in his mind, it was still there. But it felt different now, lighter, not gone but somehow held differently, like a stone he'd been clenching in his fist that he could now hold loosely in an open palm. The illness wasn't him. It was something moving through him, like breath moving through lungs, like wind moving through trees, temporary, changing, not the whole truth of who he was. Master Yu finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper, as if anything louder might shatter the delicate peace that had settled over them. Do you feel it, Kai? The aliveness in everything. Kai nodded slowly, unable to find words. This is what we forget, the old master said. We think we're separate from nature, from each other, from life itself. But breath reminds us, every inhale is the world entering you. Every exhale is you joining the world. You and the garden, breathing together. He let silence return for several more breaths before speaking again. Tomorrow we continue, he said. Tonight, rest in what you've discovered. Practice before you sleep. Practice when you wake. Just a few breaths, conscious and present. That's all. The healing isn't in doing something complex. It's in returning to what's simple and true. Kai sat alone in the garden as dusk painted the sky in shades of lavender and gold. Master Yu had gone inside to prepare the evening meal, but Kai wasn't ready to leave this place, wasn't ready to stop breathing consciously. He continued the practice. Inhale, exhale, notice, return. It felt different doing it alone, without Master Yu's presence, but not worse, just different. He was responsible now for his own attention, his own returning. Something fundamental had shifted in him today, though he couldn't quite name what. It wasn't that his illness had vanished. His body still felt weak, still carried the marks of months of sickness. But the fear had loosened its grip. The desperate, grasping quality of his suffering had softened into something he could meet with breath, with presence, with a kind of gentle curiosity rather than panic. When he finally went inside for dinner, the simple meal of rice and vegetables tasted more vivid than any feast he remembered. He ate slowly, breathing between bites, present for each flavor and texture. That night, lying on the thin mat Master Yu had prepared for him, Kai continued to breathe. Consciously, gratefully. Sleep came easily for the first time in months, and his dreams were filled not with anxiety or fear, but with breath, flowing like water, constant as tide, the rhythm that connected him to everything alive. When he woke before dawn, he was already breathing. Conscious, present, and somehow, mysteriously, the healing had already begun. Kai woke in darkness, the world still and silent. Something had pulled him from sleep, not a sound, but a feeling, a sense that the day was waiting. He rose quietly and stepped outside into the pre-dawn chill. The garden lay in shadow, shapes barely visible in the last of the night. And there, beneath the plum tree, sat Master Yu, motionless as stone, his form outlined against the slowly lightening sky. Kai approached without speaking, without breaking the silence that felt sacred somehow. He settled onto his stone from yesterday and simply sat, watching the old master, watching the sky. Master Yu's eyes were closed, his breathing so subtle, Kai could barely detect it. He seemed part of the garden itself, rooted, patient, completely at ease with the stillness. They waited together as darkness thinned to grey, as grey softened to pearl, as the first edge of sun touched the eastern hills. Birds began their morning songs, tentative at first, then growing bold. Kai kept breathing as he'd learned yesterday, present for this slow birth of light. When the sun finally cleared the mountains and spilled gold across the garden, Master Yu opened his eyes. He looked at Kai with that deep, seeing gaze and smiled slightly. "You came without being called," he said. "Good. The practice is already teaching you to listen." He shifted his position slightly, settling more deeply into stillness. "Yesterday, breath," he said. "Today, mind." Kai waited, curious and slightly apprehensive. His mind had been his torment for months, the endless worry about his illness, the spiral of fears about death and failure, and all the things he couldn't control. How could sitting still possibly help that? Your mind is like a pond, Master Yu began. Right now it's stormy, wind whipping the surface, waves crashing, everything turbulent and confused. You can't see the bottom. You can't see clearly at all. He paused, letting this image settle. We're not going to fight the storm. We're simply going to stop adding to it. We'll let it settle on its own. Kai frowned slightly. How? By watching, Master Yu said simply. Your thoughts are like clouds passing through the sky of your awareness. They come, they go. The sky doesn't grab them or push them away. It simply allows them to pass through. You can do the same. It sounded impossible. Kai's thoughts didn't feel like passing clouds. They felt like a swarm of bees, relentless and stinging. Try, Master Yu said gently. Close your eyes. Keep breathing as you did yesterday. But now, also notice your thoughts. Don't fight them. Don't try to empty your mind. That's impossible and unnecessary. Just watch. Kai closed his eyes, and immediately his mind erupted. Thoughts flooded in like water through a broken dam. Worry about his family, wondering if his mother had enough firewood, remembering he'd promised to help repair his neighbor's roof before he left, anxiety about his illness, fear that this meditation thing wouldn't work, concern that he was wasting time, hunger, an itch on his nose, wondering how long they'd sit here, memory of a girl from his village who used to smile at him, regret that he never spoke to her, worry again, always worry. He tried to push the thoughts away, and they multiplied. He tried to focus only on breath, and his mind scattered in a dozen directions. Frustration rose hot in his chest. You're fighting, Master Yu said quietly, without opening his eyes. I can feel it from here. Stop fighting. I can't, Kai said, opening his eyes in defeat. There are too many thoughts. They won't stop. Master Yu opened his eyes and looked at Kai with infinite patience. Let me tell you something, he said. When the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree seeking enlightenment, do you think his mind suddenly went quiet? Do you think all his thoughts simply vanished and left him in perfect peace? Kai had always imagined exactly that, the Buddha sitting in serene emptiness. No, Master Yu continued. His mind was as loud as yours. Doubts came. You're wasting your time. This is foolish. You should give up. Fears came. You'll fail. You're not worthy. Memories came. Desires came. All of it. He leaned forward slightly. The difference is, he stopped arguing with them. He stopped trying to make them go away. He simply sat and watched them arise and pass, like waves on the ocean. Thoughts aren't the enemy, Kai, he said softly. Attachment to them is. When you grab a thought and hold it, turn it over and over, believe it's the absolute truth, that's when you suffer. But when you let thoughts move through you like wind through trees, they have no power to harm. Kai took a slow breath, trying to absorb this. "Try again," Master Yu said. "But this time, when a thought appears, just notice it. Name it if that helps. Worry, planning, memory. Then, let it go and return to your breath. Thought appears, you notice. It passes. Again and again. That's the whole practice." Kai closed his eyes once more. A thought arose. This won't work. He noticed it. Doubt. He named it silently. And instead of arguing with it or believing it, he let it drift past and returned to his breath. Another thought, "I'm hungry." He noticed. Sensation. It passed. Breath. Another, "What if I'm dying?" This one had more grip. Fear flooded his body. His chest tightened. But he noticed this too. Noticed the fear, noticed the tightness, and instead of diving into the story of death and loss, he simply acknowledged fear and returned to breath. The thought didn't disappear. It circled back, tried again to catch his attention. But each time, he noticed and returned, noticed and returned. Slowly, gradually, something began to shift. Minutes became an hour, though Kai had no sense of time passing. The sun climbed higher. Warmth spread across his face and shoulders. Master Yu sat beside him, a steady presence, asking nothing. Thoughts continued to arise, planning, worrying, remembering, imagining. But the spaces between thoughts grew longer. His breathing deepened. His body softened into the stone beneath him. And then, without warning, it happened. A gap. A moment between thoughts where there was simply awareness. No content, no story, no worry, or plan, or memory. Just pure, open, spacious presence. It lasted perhaps 3 seconds, maybe less. But in those seconds, Kai touched something vast, a silence that wasn't empty but full, a stillness that held everything, a peace that had no opposite. Then thoughts returned. What was that? Did I do it right? Will it happen again? But even these thoughts felt different now, softer somehow, less solid, like they were written on water instead of carved in stone. Kai opened his eyes, and tears were flowing down his cheeks again. He looked at Master Yu, who was watching him with quiet understanding. The old master didn't smile or congratulate, or make any fuss. He simply nodded once, a small acknowledgement that yes, Kai had glimpsed something real. They sat together in silence as morning became midday, as shadows shortened and birds fell quiet in the heat. Kai didn't try to recapture that gap between thoughts. He simply continued the practice, noticing, returning, and found that the practice itself was enough. When Master Yu finally stood, his movements were slow and careful, like someone surfacing from deep water. Kai rose too, his legs stiff from sitting, his mind clearer than it had been in months. They prepared lunch together in the small kitchen, working in companionable silence. Kai chopped vegetables with deliberate attention, noticing the sound of the knife, the texture of each carrot and radish, the way his hands moved. Everything felt more vivid, more present, as if a film had been wiped from his eyes. They ate slowly, still without speaking. Kai noticed that the silence between them wasn't awkward or empty. It was full, rich, with shared understanding. They were communicating without words, present for each other, and for the simple act of eating. After the meal, as they washed dishes, Master Yu finally spoke. "The mind is like a muscle," he said, handing Kai a clean bowl to dry. "It learns stillness slowly, through patient repetition. What you touch today, that gap, that peace, it's always there, beneath the noise. You don't create it through meditation. You simply learn to recognize it." He dried his hands on a cloth and turned to Kai. "Practice this each morning," he said. "Sit, watch your thoughts, return to breath. Some days will feel easy. Some days your mind will be wild as a storm. Both are fine. The practice is in showing up, not in achieving some perfect state." That evening, after a simple dinner of rice and steamed greens, Kai sat alone in the garden as twilight settled over the mountains. He closed his eyes and began again, breathing, noticing, returning. It was harder without Master Yu beside him. His thoughts seemed louder, more insistent, more likely to pull him into stories and worries. But he stayed with it, patient with himself, remembering that each return was the practice, not the staying. When he finally opened his eyes, stars had appeared overhead, bright and countless. He felt tired, but it was a good tiredness, the tiredness of honest work, of attention fully given. Sleep that night came from a deep pool of peace. His dreams were quiet, spacious, and when he woke before dawn the next morning, his first thought was simple and clear: time to sit. On the third morning, after sitting meditation as the sun rose over the mountains, Kai's stomach growled loudly enough that Master Yu heard it from across the garden. The old master's face broke into a smile, the first truly playful expression Kai had seen from him. He laughed, a warm sound like water over stones. "Your body is speaking," he said. "We should listen." He stood and brushed dirt from his robe. "Come," he said, gesturing for Kai to follow. "Let me show you my other garden." They walked around the side of the cabin to an area Kai hadn't yet explored. There, tucked against the slope of the mountain and sheltered by tall pines, lay a sprawling vegetable garden, unlike any Kai had seen in his village. It wasn't planted in neat, orderly rows. Instead, everything grew together in what looked like beautiful chaos: tomatoes climbing beside beans, squash sprawling beneath fruit trees, herbs scattered throughout like green lace. Bees moved lazily from flower to flower. A small stream ran along one edge, providing water. Everything thrived in wild harmony, each plant supporting the others. "This is where your healing truly lives," Master Yu said, walking between the plants with obvious affection. He bent to examine a cucumber vine, his fingers gentle on the leaves. "Food is medicine, Kai, the most powerful medicine we have." He straightened and looked at Kai directly. "But most people eat poison mindlessly, not because the food itself is poison, but because they consume it without awareness, without gratitude, without presence. They eat while distracted, while worried, while rushing to the next thing, and so even good food cannot nourish them properly." Kai thought of his own eating habits back in the village, shoveling rice into his mouth while talking, barely tasting anything, eating because it was time to eat rather than because his body called for nourishment. "Today," Master Yu said, "you'll learn to eat as if your life depends on it, because it does." Master Yu moved through the garden with the ease of long familiarity, pausing at different plants and inviting Kai to look closely at each one. "This is bok choy," he said, running his hand over the smooth green leaves. "It cools internal heat, supports healthy digestion. Your body has been running hot with illness. This will help." He moved to a patch of leafy greens Kai didn't recognize. Mizuna, peppery, alive. It clears the mind, brings chi upward, good for sluggishness, for depression. They walked to where carrots pushed their feathery tops above the soil. "Root vegetables ground you," Master Yu explained. "When your mind is scattered, when worry lifts you away from your body, roots bring you back to earth." He showed Kai ginger, explaining its warming properties, its ability to kindle digestive fire. He pointed out herbs: cilantro for cooling, basil for joy, mint for clarity. Each plant was a teacher. Each had gifts to offer. "We'll gather what calls to you," Master Yu said. "Listen to your body. It knows what it needs." They began to harvest, but Master Yu turned it into ceremony. Before picking anything, he paused, placed his hand on the plant, and spoke softly. "Thank you for your gift," he murmured to a tomato plant, heavy with red fruit. "You grew in sunshine and rain, and now you offer yourself to nourish us. We receive you with gratitude." At first, Kai felt awkward doing this. Talking to vegetables seemed strange. But Master Yu's sincerity was unmistakable, and gradually, Kai found himself meaning the words. "Thank you. I see you. I'm grateful." Something shifted in the act of harvesting this way. The vegetables stopped being mere objects and became life offering itself to life. Each tomato had grown from a tiny seed, had reached toward the sun, had drunk rain, and transformed it into this red sweetness. Each carrot had pushed down through dark soil, seeking nutrients, becoming nourishment itself. They carried their harvest to the kitchen in woven baskets, bok choy and carrots, tomatoes and ginger, fresh herbs that filled the air with their sharp green scent. Master Yu worked slowly, deliberately, transforming food preparation into a meditation of its own. He filled a wide bowl with cool water and placed the vegetables in it. "Watch," he said to Kai. "Feel the water on your hands, the texture of each leaf and root. Notice the colors. How many shades of green can you see? How does the red of a tomato differ from the orange of a carrot?" Kai washed the vegetables with attention he'd never brought to the task before. The bok choy leaves felt smooth and cool, slightly waxy. The carrots were rough with earth, and washing them revealed bright orange beneath the dirt. The water turned cloudy with soil, and Kai marveled at how soil and water and sun had conspired to create food. Chopping was the next meditation. Master Yu handed Kai a knife, well worn, perfectly balanced, and showed him how to cut with precision and care. "Listen to the sound," he said, as his own knife moved through a carrot with a clean, crisp snap. "Notice the smell that's released when you cut herbs. That's their essence, their medicine, being offered to the air." Kai chopped slowly, paying attention to each cut. The knife through bok choy made a softer sound than the knife through carrot. Slicing ginger released a sharp, warming fragrance that cleared his sinuses immediately. Cutting tomatoes, he watched their seeds and juice spill onto the cutting board, bright and alive. "Cooking is alchemy," Master Yu said, as he lit a fire in the small stove. "We take the elements, earth in the vegetables, water to cook them, fire to transform them, air to carry their steam, and we create nourishment. We're participating in the transformation of life itself." They cooked together, adding vegetables to heated oil, listening to the sizzle, watching colors change as heat worked its magic. Green deepened, orange brightened. Aromas filled the small kitchen, ginger's warmth, garlic's pungency, the earthy smell of cooking greens. Master Yu stirred the pot with deliberate slowness. "No rush," he said. "Food prepared in haste carries that energy. Food prepared with presence and care carries that energy too. You'll taste the difference." As they cooked, Master Yu spoke quietly, almost as if thinking aloud. The Buddha taught that when you eat the whole universe, he said. Think about this carrot. It held sunshine, the energy of the sun transformed into vegetable form. It held rain, which came from oceans, which evaporated into clouds, which fell as water. It held soil, which was made from rocks broken down over millions of years, from leaves that fell and decomposed, from countless lives lived and returned to earth. It held the care of the gardener, me, in this case, who planted and watered and tended. He paused, stirring. When you eat this carrot, you receive all of that. Sun, rain, earth, time, care. The whole universe in one bite. Kai looked at the food cooking in the pot with new eyes. It wasn't just vegetables anymore. It was a story, a history, a gift from the living world. When the food was ready, Master Yu ladled it into 2 simple ceramic bowls. Steam rose, carrying with it all the fragrances of their cooking. They carried the bowls outside to a small wooden table beneath the eaves of the cabin, where they could look out over the garden and the mountains beyond. They sat facing each other, bowls before them, and Master Yu did something that surprised Kai. He simply sat, hands resting gently on either side of his bowl, eyes closed, not moving to eat. Kai waited, uncertain. After a long moment, Master Yu spoke, his voice soft and reverent. We pause to acknowledge what we're about to receive, he said. Not praying to a god or deity, but simply expressing gratitude to life itself, to soil and sun and rain, to the plants that gave themselves, to the hands that prepared this meal, to our bodies that will receive and transform this nourishment. He opened his eyes and looked at Kai. Gratitude isn't just politeness, he said. It's a way of truly seeing, of recognizing the web of connections that makes each meal possible. When you eat with gratitude, your body receives the food differently, more fully, more openly. They sat for another breath in silence, and Kai felt something he'd never felt before a meal, a sense of ceremony, of significance, of receiving something precious rather than simply consuming fuel. Then Master Yu lifted his chopsticks and took the first bite. Kai did the same, bringing a piece of bok choy to his mouth. And for perhaps the first time in his life, he actually tasted his food. Not just flavor, but everything, the slight bitterness of the green, the sweetness beneath it, the tender texture against his tongue, the warmth spreading through his mouth. He chewed slowly, as Master Yu was doing, and noticed how the flavors changed as he chewed, how the ginger's heat built gradually, how the vegetables released their juices, how his saliva mixed with the food and began the process of digestion right there in his mouth. Your digestion begins here, Master Yu said quietly, as if reading Kai's observations. In the mouth, when you chew thoroughly, when you taste fully, You're already beginning to break down the food, to receive its nourishment. But when you swallow too quickly, barely chewing, you overwhelm your stomach and miss half the gift. They ate in silence after that, but it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was full, rich, companionable. Kai focused entirely on the experience of eating, each bite its own small universe of sensation and flavor. He noticed things he'd never noticed before. How his body responded to different foods. The carrot felt grounding, satisfying in a deep way. The ginger brought warmth to his belly, seemed to wake something up inside him. The greens felt clean, clearing, like they were washing through his system with gentle efficiency. Notice your body receiving this, Master Yu said softly, between bites. Feel how it responds. Your body has wisdom. It knows what it needs. When you eat with awareness, you can hear its guidance. And Kai could feel it. Some foods his body seemed to reach toward eagerly, while others it accepted more neutrally. Not because some foods were better than others, but because his body's needs were specific, changing, individual. The meal lasted perhaps 20 minutes, though Kai couldn't be sure. Time felt different when eating this way, expanded, present, unhurried.